women not giving up that ass as long as there's guns and violence on the streets? You think if they actually would have done that to begin with, we wouldn't have these problems with the youth to begin with. Am I right? Think about that right after my review. Stop right there. I'm just going to tell you this right now. Go see this fucking movie, even before my review. Now, if you don't see this movie, you're wasting your time. You need to wake up. You need to broaden your goddamn horizon, because Chi-Raq is fantastic. This ain't an advertisement. This is just a straight up review. Now I'm going to talk about this movie. Now, Chi-Raq is directed by Spike Lee. Who's Spike Lee? Where the hell have you been if you don't know who the hell Spike Lee is? Do the Right Thing, Crooklyn, Inside Man, Old Boy. Let's not count Old Boy. But those movies are all great that I actually listed before. Spike Lee is back. Spike Lee has not been away, but Spike Lee has been making controversial comments in the past. He may have burned a couple of bridges, but that's not the case here. Spike Lee is not slipping. Not in this movie. He slipped in Old Boy. He slipped in Miracles to Anna. He's been slipping kind of recently, but Spike Lee is here. Now, one of my favorite Spike Lee movies, actually no, my favorite Spike Lee movie, obviously everybody would probably say Do the Right Thing or whatnot, but no, I say one of his most underrated ones to me, and the ones that kind of even brings a tear to my eye, would actually have to be Crooklyn. Crooklyn to me is just a movie that seems like, it just kind of mirrors, the world I live in, kind of the neighborhood I'm in. So that's what that feels like. Now, for Chi-Raq, the premise is that, women are holding out sex from their gang member, boyfriends or husbands, or whoever it may be. No judgment. They're holding it out from them in order to keep peace, to stop the war zone that is Chicago. Why do they call it Chi-Raq? Because apparently the gun violence, just the gang violence and the gun control and all that whatnot, the stealing and the robbing is like an entire war zone. It's easy to come across guns and all this violence presented in this film. It reminds them as in the war in Iraq. That's what it is. Now, this movie is, to me, it's disguised. Like, if you've seen the trailer, you probably be like, well, what the hell is this about? Because I thought that exact same thing. Now, I didn't look up what it was because I wanted to kind of go into this just completely blindfolded. I didn't want to have any perceptions of what it may or may not be. So, going into this thing, I just wanted to straight up see how it was exactly. So, I did that, and I went, I saw it, I loved it. I actually thought about it. I thought a lot about it on the way back. But for this, as I said, that's the premise. That's the basic premise. Now, this movie's a lot more. This movie touches on gun control, as I said. It touches on the gang life. What it leaves you with. How these streets have changed. It really does touch on so many things that I can't even fathom on in just like this review, because it would be awfully long. Now, for Spike Lee, if anybody, like, we're going to talk about some positives right here, right? If anybody says that, Spike Lee is not a great director, I'm going to tell you this right now. One, you might want to document this, right? Because, ready? In 3, 2, 1. Spike Lee's a great director. That was a fuck up, but we're still going to keep it in. Spike Lee is a great director. That's 2 fuck ups. I get 3 and I'm done. Spike Lee's a great director. So much that he actually managed to make Nick Cannon a good actor. Now, granted, or at least a solid enough one. Now, Nick Cannon plays a gangster rapper named Chi-Raq. The Spartans and the Trojans are, purple and orange crew kind of headbutting it in Chicago, and then they're kind of causing all this damage. A girl dies, and then this girl, played fantastically by Tiona Paris from Dear White People, another person from Dear White People that had a great performance. The other one was in Creed just last week and whatnot. So it's good to like see them kind of like branching out and whatnot. So America, the cast from Dear White People, they know how to act. Cast them some shit. And Dear White People also seems very similar to this in some way. Like it comes across as like just an angry black person movie. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like, oh, great, the white America is going to hate this because we seem like we're just angry black people. But Dear White People was something more than that. I'm not going to tell you what it's about. Just go see it. It's a great movie. And this is also another movie that touches on a lot of stuff. The Trayvon Martin stuff, that touches on that. These kids, some of these cops just randomly killing them. What's the difference between a gang member and a cop? A gang member will shoot you just randomly point blank without even blinking an eye. And some of these cops would actually do the exact same if you look, a little shady. So that was good. Performances. We're going to talk about some performances here. Tiona Paris, which plays the lead, she reminded me of a young Pam Grier. She I don't know if any of you kind of think that, but for some people think that big bushy hair is not attractive. I think big bushy hair is very attractive, and she pulls it off completely in this movie. Now, as I said, she reminded me of a Pam Grier, specifically, Foxy Brown or whatnot. And I'd actually like to see a remake of Foxy Brown with Tiona Paris. I think she did fantastic. She's great looking. She's awesome. Nick Cannon, I thought I was going to hate Nick Cannon to the absolute fullest of this movie. But surprisingly, he's not in it that much. But when he's in there, I kind of believe him. And the final scene with Nick Cannon is great. If you don't kind of slightly tear up, then, you got no heart. You got no soul. Sam Jackson brings so much goddamn energy to this thing. His commentary is just kind of like the lady from The Warriors, the radio host, that she's kind of telling the story as to what may or may not happen. But yeah, I enjoyed his energy. He brings a bright energy, just like his bright ass suits. But he's funny. He's hysterical. He gets that done and whatnot. As I said, Nick Cannon's great. Angela Bassett is cool. Dave Chappelle, this is kind of a spoiler, but if you've seen the trailer, he's in there. Dave Chappelle has a great one scene. It's good to see Wesley Snipes doing something again in movies. If anybody's seen A Player, he's back in action there, so it was good to see him in this. Now, before you see this movie, just give everybody a heads up. This movie is a bit of a lyrical, musical. Right, if that makes any sense, right? It's kind of like a poem. You know how poems can have curses and whatnot, but also have metaphors, sort of, and their ways of dialogue. If anybody's seen Carmen, the hip hopper with Beyonce and Mekhi Phifer, probably nobody's seen it. But if you know what I'm talking about, then let me know. Write it down below in the comments. But it's kind of like that. Now, there's not music necessarily playing. It's kind of like an a cappella lyrical dialogue thing. It's like they're reading poems each in dialogue form. Now, granted, it is great, and it doesn't bother me, but it does eventually get tiresome. Now, some negatives on this thing, we're going to go back and forth here, is that the thing does kind of run a little long, to the point where I almost wanted to check my watch, but luckily I didn't have a watch, so I was just kind of like, this is getting a little bit long here. But luckily, once Sam Jackson kind of comes back, and he's probably one of the best parts of the movie, he's great. The General from Man of Steel is in here. He's worked with Spike Lee before. He's great in here. The guy, I forgot his name, but he's always in every Spike Lee movie. He's the light-skinned dude. You'll see him. He has a great scene with Angela Bassett. But the General from Man of Steel, he's real funny in this movie. Just go see it. Well, not just go see it for him, but, he's real funny in this movie. He reminded me of, Leslie Nielsen, how he tried to play straight, not straight, but the straight man in comedy, where he's doing these hysterical things, but he's very serious. D.B. Sweeney's in here. What? Random person in the movie, but does a fantastic job in the role he's doing, is John Cusack. I never thought I'd see John Cusack and Nick Cannon share a same scene together, but they do. John Cusack plays a preacher. He's trying to also get, he's trying to help Jennifer Hudson out. She's a woman that got her daughter killed, and that's kind of the whole basis of the story. They're slightly trying to find also who killed it. They touch upon how some people, especially the church scene. I'm not going to really ruin too much about it, but they touch on the church scene and how, and the church scene with John Cusack, which is probably his best scene, probably the best scene of the movie. That's right, John Cusack got the best fucking scene in a goddamn Spike Lee movie. Go see that scene. But mainly go see that movie. Now, John Cusack, he plays the preacher, and his scene in the church is really going to make you think. Now, if a movie is meaningful, you're going to hear the crowd. Now, the crowd I was with, when you hear people kind of be like, yeah, amen, brother, amen, woo, and it sounded like a church. John Cusack was so good as being a preacher. He made me feel like I was in church. And today's a Friday. He made me feel like I'm on a church on a Friday. That's how goddamn good John Cusack is. If you don't believe John Cusack in that scene, at first it starts off like some kind of hokey, Nick Cage performance, but that's not the case. By the time it's done, you're going to be like, this guy's actually right. He talks about how it's easier to get a gun, than a computer, He talks about how some people actually think it's snitching if you don't actually say something. People rather, the only way you can get somebody to actually tell about something if they see something, violent in the neighborhood It's if you have to put a reward. The coward's way out, pretty much. Now, there's a whole bunch of other stuff John Cusack talks about in that speech, and it's fantastic. And you really should listen to exactly what he's saying because he does it very well. Some other great things in this, the opening intro music. Now, another thing thought I would never say was that Nick Cannon sucks at, well, not sucks, but not that I thought I would say, but Nick Cannon is terrible as a rapper. He's a terrible musician. He's just terrible. But in this movie, if you've seen the trailer, the song that plays in it is Nick Cannon's and plays at the very beginning of the movie. Now, for the very beginning of the movie, it sets the tone. I never thought I would actually say it. It just stayed in my head. When you see Chi-Raq, most likely, if you did not like Nick Cannon's music before, you may actually like this song because I thought this song actually kind of fitted the tone. I don't think they needed to play it later on in the movie. They played it twice. I say just play it once. They should have just played it once at the beginning because it was believe it or not, it was like a powerful song. I don't know if Nick Cannon wrote the lyrics or whatnot, but he did the song. It actually kind of set the tone up and it made you really feel. But yeah, going back to just this whole thing, it's a funny movie, right? It's a very funny movie, but at the same time, it's very meaningful. I think it's kind of a shame that Spike Lee has to, maybe that was the whole point, because this is a satire. If you don't know what satire is kind of taking a serious, content and making some light of it, kind of almost disguising it as a lighter tone of sorts. And that's what he does here. He takes, kids dying in the street, police, dirty cops just killing people, war zones and gang violence just randomly out there. Now, this is a serious thing, even though it's funny, when you really do look at it, as I said, for the John Cusack thing, when you go up to that point, you're kind of laughing, having fun. But once the John Cusack thing comes in, that's when it kind of, not takes a turn, but it kind of stops you into your mind. And it really does wake you up as to what the hell is going on around you. Because when a movie can touch upon your life that you're living in now, then I think that says something. So, yeah, Chi-Raq. I'm going to be looking at some notes just real quick to add on something if I haven't seen it. Also, the final scene with Nick Cannon, that was his best thing I've ever seen him do. This is the best thing since Drumline, and that ain't saying that much if you've seen his resume. But yeah. Yeah, as I said, Dave Chappelle, he was great in it. There's a lot of great things in this movie. I don't even think I really need any notes. But Dave Chappelle is great in the movie. Fiona Paris is a star to watch after. She's just watch. You can just watch the opening, couple of minutes, and you'll just be like, God damn. Chicago. I'll say this: the people Spike Lee has casted for Chi-Raq were absolutely stunning. Just see it for those women if you don't want to care for the meaningful message. But now this is where the serious talk kind of comes in, right? This is a movie that deals with race, it deals with stereotypes, it deals with police killing kids, specifically black kids and whatnot. So, the way I see it is this, right? Also, for another negative is that, the lyrical dialogue where it's kind of like a poem going back and forth, they're kind of singing or talking in rhymes, right? It does get a little bit tiring. That's about it. Those are about the only negatives I could really say. It kind of runs a little long, and the lyrical dialogue kind of gets a bit boring in some cases. It loses a little bit of steam, but it ends on a high note and a powerful note, makes you think. Jennifer Hudson's also great in it. But for a serious note is that, for mainstream audience, this seems like it's kind of Spike Lee back at the same form, right? But at the same time, it feels as if Spike Lee wants this to be one thing, or taken as one thing, but the people, the average moviegoer, would see it as something else, right? Spike Lee's way is he wants to make people see this as a legit thing that will make you open your eyes as to what the hell is going around in the world. Some people just look at it and be like, yeah, this is a very funny movie. Spike Lee doesn't want you to think this is a funny movie. He wants you to think this is, yeah, it's funny, but at the core, it's a very serious film that talks about shit that is going on in the real world. This is not necessarily some, fake thing that's not happening, like some fantasy. No. In a way, it seems like an alternate reality because, let's be honest, I don't think anybody's going to, hold out for 3 months, not giving up that ass, for 3 months, and then the government and whatnot. It's just, it gets a little cartoonish in some cases towards the end. But it's a funny movie. It will make you think. It will really make you open your eyes. In all seriousness, though, there is a lot of shit going down in the world where They talk about gun control. They talk about gang violence, and there's kids dying in the street. It's easy to get a gun, and people can easily just get hurt. The wrong people. Now, this is not a preachy thing. Now, is this movie a message film? Yes. As a film, does this come across as a well put together film? Yes. The film looks great. Yes, that performance is good. The direction is good. The writing is good. That's all great. Now, as a meaningful movie, does it get the message across? It gets the message across. But will the mainstream audiences that don't necessarily like this type of shit watch it? Probably not. Now, it is fresh right now on Rotten Tomatoes, and that's awesome. For me, I personally liked Chi-Raq, and I think Spike Lee, as I said, is his best movie. This is probably my second favorite Spike Lee movie since Crooklyn. But that's not the point. This is the point. Go see Chi-Raq. It's a fantastic movie. If you don't see it for the performances, at least just see it for Teyonah Parris. Trust me, when you see it, you're going to be like, you know what? Chris Smith, the guy with the fedora, that's a smart cookie. But still, that's not the point. Comment, subscribe, like. Come on, just comment, subscribe. I'm seeing some people watch the Wiz video, and that's great. I hope you liked it at least. But the point is, just comment, subscribe, like. It really helped me out. Don't just watch the videos. Come on, I'm trying to build something here. But at the same time, go see Chi-Raq. If I had to rate it 1 out of 10, I would give Chi-Raq an 8.5. Yes, it is a fantastic movie. It gets the message across and really make you think. But the lyrical dialogue does get a little bit tiresome. And not only that, it does, run a little long. But that's with Chris Smith, and I'm signing out.